So I told myself I wasn't going to use until I went over there and ate. But by the time 11 o'clock came, I was already high.
When I got back to my room that morning, I'm sitting there looking out the window and I could see the kids going to school, and I got to think to myself, if I don't get this mental illness and this substance abuse issue under control, I'm going to spend the rest of my life here and I'm going to die here.
I was actually outside and I heard a thump in the house, which wasn't unusual, and my daughter came running out and she said, "Jordan's having a seizure."
Growing up, the son of an active use mother, I told myself that I would never ever use drugs. So I struggled with not having a mom in my life, and I had a trouble building relationships. I really didn't fit in with a lot of people. I was kind of a loner. I was really shy. I was withdrawn. I started hanging out with some people that were I didn't know used, but like we skateboarded together and hung out together, and I was still really shy. I still really didn't fit in the group. I was kind of there but not there. And the first time I tried it, I realized the shy guy, this guy that didn't really fit in with a lot of people, became funny, became part of the crowd. I could be part of this group that I just struggled so much to be a part of. I remember my wife telling me, "Could you just please not use on Sundays so that you could be part of the family?" And I agreed, and I would sit there with my wife and my daughter, and we would make tacos and we would have like movie night. And one time she looked at me and she said, "You just might as well go ahead and leave." And I'm like, "Why? I'm not using." And she goes, "But what has happened in this movie the last 10 minutes? And I couldn't even tell her what happened in the movie the last 10 minutes because my grandma was like my mom to me. She took the place of my mom that was absent a lot in my life. So I hurt her the most probably in my active use. I did a lot of damage to that relationship because she was scared all the time. She told me, "I don't know, when the phone rings after 9 o'clock at night, I'm afraid to answer it, Wayne, because I think it's going to be somebody telling me you're dead." And I remember I got mad when she told me that. I changed that emotion over to anger. And shortly after that, it was Thanksgiving, and I got some drugs early in the morning, and I told myself I wasn't going to use because it was Thanksgiving, and my grandma really made a big deal out of Thanksgiving, and we have a small family. There's only like 6 of us, and we would meet for Thanksgiving to have a big meal that my grandma would cook and make everything homemade, homemade noodles. And so I told myself I wasn't going to use until I went over there and ate. But by the time 11 o'clock came, I was already high, and my grandma called looking for me to want to know why I wasn't there. And I had my wife, my girlfriend at the time, tell her that I wasn't there, that I got upset and ran away to the woods. That wasn't enough for my grandma, so she come looking for me, and she was beating on my door. And she knew I was there. I just know she knew I was there, and she was beating on my door. And I grabbed my drugs and I ran and hid in an attic, and I used meth and lied and hid from my grandma. And missed Thanksgiving, and I just wish I could have that Thanksgiving again. I really wish I could have it because my grandma's gone now. So no matter how I tried, I couldn't do it on my own. I was using daily. I was no longer employed. My wife had left me. I was alone, living in a trailer with no electric. My family wouldn't help me anymore. They wouldn't pay my bills anymore. When I wasn't using, I would just sleep or cry or just be angry and lost. And then even when I used, I got to the point to where it really didn't change that emotional feeling, that mental feeling that I was feeling. And that's when I finally decided I don't have the answers. I need somebody to help me. I need somebody to show me how to get out of this. After I completed treatment, I was actively engaged in self-help meetings. It's one of the things they did for my aftercare plan was to find some kind of tie to recovery. So I got really involved in the recovery community. I also got really involved in doing service work with public information, and so I did a lot of TV interviews and radio interviews. I was taught by my sponsor, the person that my mentor in the self-help community, that I never turn up pass up an opportunity to share my story. So I got really involved in doing a lot of that. I found that I liked it a lot, and found that I was pretty good about sharing the information with others, and so I decided at that time I was going to go to school. I figured I'd go to school, so I signed up for college. One of my things that I always had ambition to do was to get a bachelor's degree, and my counselor's voice always rang in my head, challenge yourself to go to the next level, challenge yourself to go to the next level. So I ended up going to school. Ended up getting accepted into a university, and started working towards my bachelor's degree. During that time, my girlfriend of 15 years liked the recovering me, so she agreed to marry me. We got married. I got baptized. I started becoming active in a church. Started spending a lot of time with family. Started rekindling a lot of relationships that I had caused harm to in my active use. I remember one time my wife told me that one by one I had pushed every single person away in my life, and she goes, "You're even finding a reason to push out your own grandma." I remember her telling me that. She's the one person in my life that was always there no matter what. If I needed food, she was there. If I needed a place to sleep, she was there. If I needed money, she was there. If I needed a shoulder, she was always there. So when I got clean, I started going over my grandma's every Sunday. I started going to church with her, and she was 80 some years old at that time, and we started going to church. I was there every Sunday for dinner. I was there to help her cut her grass. I was there to help her go to the store. I was there to help her do all these things that I realized I neglected for a long, long time. And my grandma got sick, and it was a very difficult time in my recovery. So I leaned on what they taught me in treatment, was to lean on positive people that can help you through that. So I leaned on my sponsor, and I leaned on people in the recovery community, and they told me no matter what, that we could get through whatever was going to happen. And by this time I had started working at the very same treatment center that I attended, and I remember I got that call. It was February 2nd, 2015, and it's the toughest call I ever received, that my grandma had passed away. And I was blessed to work in a treatment center with people that like scooped me up and like helped me process those emotions. And in my active use, I would have ran. In my active use, I would have just pretended like it didn't happen, and I went and got high, but I didn't. I went and met my dad and my aunt, and we went to where my grandma was, and I was there to help them go through everything that they needed to go through as a family. And that's what recovery meant to me, that I got to be there for people that were always there for me, even when I wasn't there for myself. And so my grandma's funeral was tough. And I wanted it to be over. I couldn't deal with it emotionally. But I remember before they closed the casket and everybody else had walked out of the room, and I walked up and I looked at my grandma for the last time, and I took out my 6-year recovery coin and I stuck it in her casket, because I know recovery meant more to her than she probably even understood, because it was because of recovery, it was because of treatment, it was because of all these people helping me that I was able to be there for her, for those 6 years, you know. So I'm grateful. If anything, I think of that. If anything, I think, you know, of that feeling at that moment, of that accomplishment, of that sadness, everything that I went through at that moment. I love my grandma, and my grandma got to see me sober. That's what recovery is to me. So, my name is Wayne Gilliland. I'm a counselor at Clarity SUD. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. What that means for me is I haven't used a drug or a drink since July 28th of 2008.